Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Nicstalgia. I am so excited today to have my guest with me. Shirin is the co-founder of the Crypto Witch Project, and we are very excited because we're not going to give you the full rundown on everything crypto. And quick disclaimer, this is not financial or investment advice. I fully trust you to make your own decisions there. We are really going to look at this through the pop culture lens because we've heard about crypto. You've heard me talk about on the podcast the iterations of the web, Web 1, Web 2, and now we're over here hanging out in Web 3. So I'm really excited to have my first Nicstalgia guest that hangs out in that corner of the internet too. So we are going to discuss crypto not from the educational perspective, but really from, okay, what's the inspiration behind it? How can it connect to pop culture? Because that's something that we all really understand, that brings us together, that makes us feel part of something. So we're just going to explore how this next iteration of the internet and its different components can help do that for us too. So welcome, Shirin.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So first and foremost, you are the Elle Woods of crypto, which I just love that title as it drives a point home right away. And I think that what I gather from that is, okay, Elle Woods was somebody who was entering a space where, you look from the outside and she's not stereotypically native. She is a sorority girl and she is in a male-dominated space, in a place where stereotypically she would be academically excluded. And we really get to see not just only her intelligence at work, but she is just so unapologetically extra, and I absolutely love her for it. And when she is sitting outside on the little fold-up chair with Bruiser and like with her little fluffy pen, I'm like, that's just it. That's the mood. And so I wanted to ask you how you feel about being in the space and being a woman and taking the pop culture slant. And that's something that maybe people feel like, wait, with finance things or tech or crypto, like we don't fit in, or that might seem like we're walking into Harvard Law School like Elle Woods. So what has your experience been like walking in and saying, I'm here and this is how we do things?
I love that question. I think the thing I love about Elle Woods is what you said. She's totally unapologetic and she's herself and she doesn't need to compromise that. And a big thing for me walking in is when I got started in 2017, there was a lot of gatekeeping. There was a lot of like, this makes you in the crypto space and this doesn't. And I really stayed off crypto Twitter, any crypto related Instagrams. There just really wasn't a positive space that I wanted to be around. And as you know, like the energy you're around, like is the energy that creates you. So it wasn't my scene. And I think once I realized that Web3, I always was really confident in Web3 and crypto. I started heavily investing 5 years ago. But once I started to see that women were being, and marginalized groups were really being excluded, I was like, let's cut the gatekeeping down and let's just approach this in a really fun, cool way that makes it easy to understand. And I think, crypto's kind of like finance. It seems really complicated. It seems really inaccessible or unattainable, but I went to art school. So if I can learn how to work in the world and how to make it benefit me, anybody can.
Yeah, I actually recently rewatched Legally Blonde, and that was kind of the main point that I took away, that she didn't have to change herself to fit into the space. And so I think you're doing the exact same thing, where it's like, I went to art school, but if this is something I'm interested in and this is something that I want to invest in, then let's relate it to something that makes sense to us. And I think that the jargon can be a barrier to entry. And people say, even if they just, I even got onto crypto, I got back onto Twitter in general at the end of 2021 after 10 plus years of not being on the platform, because you know that that's where it's at. So how do you decide for yourself, okay, if this is somewhere I feel like I need to be to gather information, but while still kind of upholding your boundaries of I need to stay away from maybe certain corners of the internet for my own mental health? Or how do you find that integration of where to get involved, how to get involved, and how much to get involved?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opinions, especially on Twitter. And I think it's important that you really vet your sources. So when you're trying to get involved, it's important to look to sources and break it down and make it understandable and to people and platforms, and don't make their opinion the fact. I think there's the hardest part of getting to crypto is cutting through the jargon and cutting through the noise. But once you're able to kind of break your brain a little and see what it can do, it kind of opens up this cool whole new world of self ownership and financial freedom. And I think everybody needs to learn it because it's, I think it's going to be the next step of the future, and it's this new technology. And, I've always thought, like, if we really want mass adoption, we have to do it through education. So we might as well make that education fun and exciting to, surround yourself with, because there are enough, boring, like very jargon heavy um, content out there on social media. I don't think that was needed anymore.
Yeah, even right now I'm in season 3 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm watching for the first time.
Love
And
it.
yeah, I just finished up Evan Ross Katz's book on Buffy. He is the foremost Sarah Michelle Gellar historian. And a piece that they talk about a lot is the jargon that they use on the show, and just the style and mannerisms everyone takes, when just the way that they specifically phrase things, and it's just totally a part of their universe. And so we can watch that, and when you watch a TV show and you watch their episodes, you're like, okay, this is how these people talk, this is how they interact with one another. And I actually think that if you apply that principle to the crypto space, it's like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, I get this is just a different way of how people talk to each other.
Totally. I mean, I think that's such a great example. Like, it's its own world, but once you kind of, make a few flashcards and kind of relate it to normal things, like, it's a lot easier to understand.
You have some educational resources out there, but this is how I like to do things too. Everything's fun though. It's not boring, it's fun. And if Spice Girls are involved in anything, I'm showing up for it completely. And so when you put together guides or education for people in your community and for new learners in this space, how do you kind of design it and put it together? And how do you think of ways that these concepts that maybe might seem a little bit over technical or just something that people have never seen before, how are ways that you think, oh, okay, I can relate it back to Spice Girls or to Britney Spears or to pop culture in this way?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And the the things that we know on a day-to-day level are the easiest things to understand. And I think when we break down our content, we first think about what do you need to know first, and then layer from there, because there are definitely some core fundamentals. And I think those core fundamentals are the easiest things to relate to, like celebrities or to our favorite movie characters. The Kardashians, I think, is a great example of teaching utility. So if you look at the Kardashian women as crypto projects, each has a specific vibe and a specific thing they're good at. So, Kris, we always call Bitcoin the matriarch because she was the first on the scene, and she was the one who really paved the way for these future projects and protocols. So Kris Jenner is obviously Bitcoin. And then if you look at the other sisters, the sisters, Kris Jenner would love that.
Kris Jenner would love to be one of the sisters.
She is. I mean, have you seen her lately? She is looking so fly. I'm like, I love the matriarch vibes.
Mm-hmm.
I hope one day to be as powerful in spirit as Kris Jenner.
Yeah.
But like, if you look at each of her daughters, each have their thing. You know, Khloe's really into working out, and Kylie's into the makeup, and Kendall's a model. And it's really just like every crypto project has its own utility. So some crypto projects are carbon negative and are recycle energy, and then some crypto projects are made to build apps on top of and work with networks. So everyone has a different utility and a different reason people are investing in them, a different reason people connect to them. And I think it's just like the Kardashians. Like, people will relate to one or multiple of them, or, you know, they'll hate them, but it still fuels the attention they're getting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's such an interesting perspective, just like on the zeitgeist in general, where it's like your zeitgeist is your collection of all of the different parts of culture that are happening right now. And it's just kind of like a snapshot, a capture of an essence of a moment, where if we think about a song from the 90s, you hear certain instruments that they use or just a certain style of production that they use, and you're like, wow, that's so 90s, or that only could have come out in the 90s. And it's like, well, right, everything could only be in the moment that it was because it was. And so looking at, you know, this space now with crypto and all these projects existing, so many of them can exist because of the existence of others. And it's the same with the Kardashians, that there wouldn't be the makeup line without the success of Kim, and there wouldn't be a Kim if she hadn't been friends with Paris Hilton, and they wouldn't have been friends with Paris Hilton if their family hadn't already been of a particular class and standing. Yeah. So
for sure. It's wild. And it is so interesting how you say it like that, because everything does relate to another. And the success of one crypto project, it's only successful in full if the entire industry is getting adoption almost. Like, it helps to have the whole family in it. You know, it just works. And, you know, I think the thing about it is I love the story of Bitcoin and how somebody, I like to think it was a witch, just mysteriously put these white papers out there, created this whole new way of working, and then disappeared. It's like a murder mystery dinner. Like, and how genius, because once you put that technology out there, it couldn't be taken back. And, you know, nobody can be held responsible for it. Or answer to it. I just think it's just the coolest thing ever. I can't wait to like Satoshi Nakamoto the movie.
You know who I think, or not who I think it was, but how it was done? Okay, in Mean Girls, when Regina prints out the pages of the burn book, I imagine that the founders coven of Bitcoin, they have literally a stack of white papers, and they just start throwing them out. And you notice in that scene, everyone starts going crazy. There's complete pandemonium. The guy calls his mom in a frenzy, asking her to pick him up. And actually, fun fact, that actor who plays that kid calling his mom frantically, he in real life is married to the girl who played Paige Michalchuk on Degrassi. If anybody didn't know, that's one of my favorite little like very random pop culture connections. But yeah, but like she lets all these papers go. Everyone's going absolutely insane. They're all fighting each other. They're all looking at the papers. They're being like, "Oh my God, what is this?" And Regina's literally walking through the hallways and at one point standing on the stairs with her arms crossed as people are getting in brawls around her. And it's that vibe to me, where it's like the person could be right there. They could be here, or they could have just thrown the papers and walked off, and we don't know because we're all so just wrapped up in what it has to say.
Yeah. Oh my God. We literally have to create a meme of this. We'll give you credit.
Yeah.
We're going to put a meme up of this to like tease this. tease this podcast. That is genius. I think that's like the most astute explanation I've ever heard. And just like the smugness, right? Regina is so smug. I love that is just the only way I can picture it going forward. The release of these white papers.
And I think the fact that they're literally white papers that she's throwing around too is what like made the connection for me there. But even like I saw someone, I don't exactly know who it was, but crypto Twitter rabbit hole, but like someone posted on Twitter the other day and it was like NFT NYC and it's a picture of 98 Degrees holding Beanie Babies. And I'm like, this person doesn't get how this is like my niche now, but it's like, yes, now you're speaking to me now that Beanie Babies and 98 Degrees have entered the chat.
Oh my God, the Lachey brothers, they were popping in the early 2000s. That's so funny because, you know, actually before we started Crypto Witch, we actually had an NFT project and it was all about Beanie Babies. It was Beanie Baby trading cards. So essentially, like when I had the idea for Crypto Witch, it wasn't like my first idea. As an agency, I pitched to my business partner. First, I was like, let's do these, you know, e-learning about marketing. So that's what our background was. And then we were like, nah. And then I was like, let's do an NFT project, you know? And then third was Crypto Witch. It was kind of like the third pancake, if you will. But we created this whole NFT project of Beanie Baby trading cards. And I'll send you one. They're holographic and they like spin around. And we did a photo shoot with Beanie Babies holding like stacks of cash. And each stack is the value they're selling on eBay. And it's super fun. It's super cool. In retrospect, I would have done them so they're pegged to Beanie Baby. So when you buy the Beanie Baby NFT, you actually get like the Princess Di Beanie Baby or the Peace Bear Beanie Baby. So I don't know. We might relaunch it under Crypto Witch Club, and that way you literally get a Beanie Baby and you get the NFT. I feel like the 90s generation will totally get that.
That is absolutely amazing. I love that idea, and anything nostalgic, I'm obviously obsessed with, but I've found that specifically nostalgic NFT projects have, I don't know, they just speak to me for some reason because when researching projects that I want to be a part of, I always like for there to be some utility there. So whether that's a kind of membership access or if it's access to IRL events or if, right, I have seen this more in fashion, but it's like you could get with an NFT fashion project, you would get a physical outfit if you had the NFT as the outfit. Or I'm really looking forward to concert tickets as well and things like that where there is some kind of inherent value beyond just getting your cute profile picture. And as much as I would love to also, maybe in my future apartment, because I want it to be pop culture themed, I would love to be able to, you know, if I'm investing in pop culture inspired NFT projects, I can print out a giant picture of it and put it on my wall and have it feel like I didn't just buy this because I jumped on the hype train, but because it's something really cool that resonates with me personally, that I feel like has some kind of use, but also not just in an aesthetically pleasing way. But I think when you add the layer of nostalgia too, it just makes you happy to feel like you have ownership and belonging of something like that.
Totally. And I think the membership component NFT project is so key. Like, if somebody's spending money and investing in this project and investing in you, like, you really want to give them something back. So, like, one of my NFTs, like Alpha Girl Club, they have so many cool events and sound baths, like virtual sound baths and all these cool things. And to me, it really, I did like a cost per wear where I'm like, oh, cool, this community gives me so much. Yeah, I have this profile pic and I love it, but like I love being part of this community just as much, if not more. And that's really the key to NFTs. Like we always say, like Kanye would love NFTs because there's so much you can do with them. Like NFT can like be a numerical identifier for a piece of art or digital art, sure. But it can be medical records. It can also be an album. And Kanye loves self ownership. He does not want to be sharing that. He wants full control. So, how cool would it be if, like, Kanye released Donda 2 instead of on that Sun player, then you had to pay $200 for as an NFT? He could control the supply and people would sell them afterwards or probably like up the price. And also he gets a royalty for, whatever he wants as it's resold. And I just feel like it's the most Kanye thing ever. Like if Kanye does not get into NFTs, I would be shocked. I give it like 3 months.
I heard he trademarked something. I don't remember what the
Oh,
exact article or the headline.
yeah.
I'm always like, I read an article. No, I read a headline. I read a headline that Kanye was trademarking something in the NFT space. So I think he's going to be here sooner than later. But I love that point that you bring up because he actually does already have products and services that exist in multiple spaces, right? So it's like he can release music as NFTs and be able to gain royalties from that. Yeah. And with fashion, it's like, imagine if when you bought a pair of Yeezys, you had, I don't want to say a token in the wrong context, but like a piece of ownership saying, hey, I own these Yeezys. It's number X of X. There's only so many. It's been authenticated. And
it's almost like it works as authentication. So when you go to the Real and you try to sell your Yeezys later, if that's your vibe, you can show proof it's real. Like, how dope is that? And it's funny because I saw that as well the other day. Then Kanye started trademarking for like the metaverse and for NFT utility. But he also released a letter on Twitter. I don't know if you saw, that was like, don't you dare ask me about NFTs. It's not happening. And at the end, it goes like, ask me later.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, like get in it.
I love that.
I love the idea of membership cards too. And I think that's what we're going to do at Crypto Witch. Like who doesn't love like a punch card?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, if you come to one of our events, that's a punch. And we can actually do stickers that show up on your NFTs. Mm-hmm. So as you hold this punch card and participate in different things or get like a perfect score on a quiz, you actually get these like status things. And when you punch all 10, you get like a reward or a merch or gift.
Yeah.
I think there's so many cool things that can be done.
I really love that idea of membership and the loyalty too. And the idea of just like, I was there, I got to be a part of something. And I think that a lot of people think about NFT projects as cash cows or money makers. And it's like, well, there is financial value and incentive in some projects. But I think that what's really going to continue to propel the culture forward, especially in a more inclusive way, is to speak to that kind of emotional part of it too, where we all are seeking this sense of belonging. And it is cool to get 10 punches on your card. So then you excitedly go and show them in exchange it for something that you've earned because of your loyalty. And actually, so one other Kanye thing, he did a fashion show in New York in, I think this might have been in 2016 at Madison Square Garden.
Madison Square Garden.
Yes. I used to live right next to Madison Square Garden, and I always just kick myself anytime there's any concert, because at the time I literally could not afford to go to any concerts, let alone Madison Square Garden is the biggest venue and it has the biggest artists and the ticket prices aren't cheap. But when Kanye was doing his fashion show there, I was like, okay, that was the one thing at MSG that I went to while living there.
Stop.
Yeah.
I would have died to go to that. I mean, it was so cool. It was basically like a big concert, right?
Yeah, and it's like they have the big screens, obviously, that you can see, because I was in an upper section, let's be real. But on the screen, it's like Naomi Campbell's there and all the Kardashians are there. And I'm like, this is so weird, because obviously at a concert, okay, I expect to be in the same room as Kanye West. I'm at a concert. But then when you start seeing the other celebrities that are there too. And it's like, this isn't just a concert. It isn't just a fashion show. I used to work in the fashion industry. I've been to fashion shows.
Same.
Right. And like, you're around fashion people, you
Yeah.
expect to see Paris Hilton 10 feet away from you, but it's more than that. It's more about the fact that, okay, we're just going to this show, or we're just hosting this show because it's our job and it's what we're supposed to do. It's like, no, we are curating and building this cultural moment. And the fact that with Web3 that can take place in multiple not dimensions, but like in multiple spaces, like there's so much more opportunity for connection, whether it is just URL events or in the metaverse. Like there's just so many more layers of connection that we're going to be able to build. And I think that's cool.
I think it's so cool. Did you know that Anna Wintour actually got lost in Madison Square Garden after that show? And she had to like call security to get her out. She like could not get out. She got lost backstage.
Oh my
and
God.
She said it was like terrifying. She was just like, I was trapped.
It feels like that. Anyone listening who's literally been to a concert ever, probably, when everyone's trying to get to the park or get to the parking lot from the venue and then leave the parking lot at the end, it's like, absolutely not. Actually, this was the last so I haven't been to any concerts yet in the, post-pandemic world, but the beginning of March 2020, my best friend and I went to see Celine Dion because I stan, and we got a parking spot right up front. So it was great going inside. And then on the way out, so they had Rita's frozen ice and custard, and we're like, let's just go get Rita's after the concert, because by the time we could just get it, eat the ice cream in the car, and then by the time we're done, all of these cars will have cleared out, because if we try to leave now,
Genius.
We'll just be sitting here. So at least we got a little ice cream to enjoy afterward, instead of being in like that big rush.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds so much better.
Yeah. When I got back on Twitter, so I'm on it to observe and to interact, not to be an influencer, but one of the first people that followed me on Twitter, and I was like, why? Was someone who, they're definitely not working on it anymore. They're definitely working on some kind of NFT project, but they first saw, I guess, that I had liked or retweeted something Celine Dion had posted, and they said, oh, I'm going to work on a Celine Dion NFT project. I'm like, this guy is trying to scam me right now, because he knows that I will buy anything that has to do with her.
Was it a scam?
I didn't look into it any further, because he didn't say click on this link. That's the thing too. If anyone's listening and they get in the space and it's like, oh, it's so dangerous, or there's no security, it's like, no, people have been clicking on links since the beginning of the internet. Don't do that, or any of that sketchy stuff.
I think it's also a thing to say is like, blockchain technology itself isn't a scam. It's really revolutionary. It provides all this cool access and ownership and all sorts of stuff. But like, literally the phishing scams are insane. Like, but it's just like when everybody had dial-up internet. There was princes from Nigeria emailing everybody left and right. Nobody had ever dealt with that before. And, the majority of people I know then have been embroiled in a scam or gotten sucked in. They're smart people, but they'll get an email being like, oh, this NFT project, you're going to lose access to your NFT. Click this link, give your password. And in the anxiety of the moment, they do it and they lose access to their wallet. And yeah, phishing scams have been around since like the dawn of the digital age. And yeah, definitely a disclaimer to stay safe out there. And I mean, even right now, we have like 4 fake Crypto Witch Club accounts that are like DMing people. And literally one DM'd my mother-in-law the other week and was like, help, it's an emergency. And she texted me being like, are you okay? And I was like, what? Like, I was just like, I mean, it's crazy. But yeah, they'll like target our followers and be like, this is our backup page. send us money. Yeah, it's wild.
I saw.
It obviously is like a sore spot. I just went on a rant.
No, not at all. I've seen that happen a lot with not just in crypto, but even just looking at the witchy side of it too, with a lot of astrologer accounts as well, because
Yes.
they will just reach out to people and they're taking advantage of people who are trying to look for answers. I'm huge into astrology as a tool for self-actualization and self-awareness, but no astrologer, no NFT project, like nobody cares about you to the point where they're going to reach out to you and be like, hey, give me money or whatever. Like, no, if it's a business or a project, they're focusing on running their business or running their project. And I saw what was it? Like a video where, you know, when we had the mid 2000s, like the Motorola phones, I had an Envy, and there would be those text message, the chain messages where it'd be like, a girl died, and if you don't forward this to 7 people, like you're gonna die too. And everyone was like, ah, it's like that. You know, it's not real. So don't click links, don't forward stuff. And it's actually very, not, I guess, funny, haha. But when I was watching Buffy, I was like, wait, what has Seth Green been up to? And then it was right when the news broke that he had been scammed. And it's like, wow.
Wait, what? From a crypto project? Or
yeah, he was a Bored Ape holder, and one of them got stolen, but then the person's, I have to read into it more because sometimes I just like read these headlines and then I'm like, do I really want to dive in here, or do I want to set a boundary with myself? But
I can tell you a little bit about that one though.
Yeah.
Because essentially what happened, so a bunch of people lost their Bored Apes, and I'm just assuming this is when he lost his, like a few months ago. Like it was pretty recent, right?
It was very recent, I think.
Yeah. So basically, the Bored Ape Yacht Club's Instagram was hacked, and the person who hacked their Instagram put up a link, then said, "Oh my God, you have access to this now." Like it was like real estate, digital real estate for the metaverse. Like click this button, put your details in, and you get this. And people did it, and that's how they lost their Bored Ape, because the Instagram of the company was hacked. And so people were like, oh, it's on their official Instagram. I did my research. I'm on their official Instagram. I'm good. But a lot of people lost their Bored Apes. And again, just goes to show it's kind of like an official scam. Like one account got hacked. People trust that account. And then they, lose their money.
That's so,
it's rough out there.
It's crazy, right? I mean, there's that acronym, DYOR, do your own research, and projects will usually have their list of their official links. And right, there was an, I don't know if it was Bored Apes or another project recently that was very high profile, where one of their mods' Discord profiles got compromised. And so when a moderator of a project, that's somebody who is looking through all of the discourse and the conversation and putting out announcements, like, I think that's really what a scam is. It's betraying people's trust.
Yeah, and it's really a shame because, a lot of people who fall victim to these, they're smart people. It's not like they're foolish, but you get caught up in the anxiety of the moment or the excitement of the moment, and then you make choices without thinking it through the full way, or your trust is just taken advantage of. You did your own research, you're following them. So yeah, it's a little bit the wild, wild west. It's very like early internet. Mm-hmm. But that being said, you can definitely see the security, people's awareness and their education like tightening up. And I think it's going to get stronger. And it's one of the reasons we're big on being educators, is because even if crypto is not the right investment for you, you should be educated on it, because that way you can at least speak to it, or you can ensure that you're not falling victim to something that's maybe a scam, but also just maybe false information.
It's like being on an AOL chat room in the 90s and everyone is saying that they're a certain age or in a certain location, and you like kind of know everybody's lying, But
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
all like 14-year-olds,
yeah, and
you know?
it's not until we have a culture that pushes forward where on social media, that is really where people were not anonymous anymore in the same way. And I think that this isn't new, and kind of like the anonymity that you see in Web3 too, with founders of projects not being doxxed, them having profile pictures, you not knowing people's real identities. It's like, that's not new. We can't criticize the crypto world for that, because that was AOL chat rooms, that was meme accounts with, you don't know who's running that page. You really don't.
Yeah.
So it's like, I love talking about that progression of the internet, because it's like every iteration has the same problems in a different form, and yet every iteration also looks to address the problems that the previous iteration of the internet created. And so I very much have I was going to say I very much have faith, but then as I was starting to finish that sentence, I'm like, maybe I should word it a little differently. It's like I have optimism. I'm always an optimistic person. I always look to the future. I'm very interested in technology and ways that we can utilize it to better connect to one another. What kind of hopes do you have as you continue to build your platform and educate people about this new space?
We're super positive, but we're also realistic. I think one thing we've realized is that there's a lot of fear just surrounding, and just like honestly shade surrounding the word crypto. Like it's kind of like a dirty word, similar to like, my background's in fashion PR and marketing. And marketing, people just like, ugh, like hate that word sometimes because there's a lot of, I don't want to say seedy marketers, but a lot of, oh, throw me $300, I'll grow your Instagram by 20,000. And when people get burned by somebody, they kind of associate it all. So I think there's definitely trigger words right now where people aren't understanding even what an NFT is, or then it could be something you can hold, or it could be tangible. But I think if we can work past those trigger words and those assumptions, I think that's going to be the foundation to understanding. Like sometimes people are just like, oh, crypto's so volatile, it's such a joke, it's this. And I'm like, well, you can invest in like stable coins actually and get an APY on that without more volatility than the US dollar. And their minds are blown because they've kind of just seen some people that are in crypto, or seen some crypto or blockchain stereotypes, and they decided it's not for me before they learn about it. So our goal is just to make it fun and cool, and maybe, if we're explaining it in a way that resonates with people, they'll be more excited about it, and they'll see it not as something where they're being sold something, because we're not traders. We're not offering to trade for people. We're not vouching specific projects, but we're just saying, like, here's the details. Here's what we think. Like, let us know your thoughts. And I think people resonate with that type of breakdown where it's like, you want the facts. If you want like an quote unquote expert's opinion, here you go. And then, let's start a discussion. Like, let's have that conversation. And I think having that convo is the most important, especially with people who don't vibe with it. It's just education's everything.
Yeah, I think that with pop culture too, that's something that people so natively have discourse about. And, of course, there are little subsets. And I think people kind of usually say that younger generations or younger people are more so in like, they understand internet culture, and other people more understand digital culture, and others are more into pop culture. But the point is that these are areas that people are comfortable learning about, having their opinion, being able to see all of the information that's out there. And I think that, I mean, it's really like how pop culture is like the stable coin, and you're able to peg to it. So it's something that people can understand, and their understanding cannot be so volatile. And then they go so deep down a rabbit hole, and then they're like, wait, this
Yeah.
is too much, or I don't get it, or this is scary, or I don't like it. It's like, no, I can, just the same way that people would look up news about a celebrity or entertainment, they can look up just news in a new sector. So I think that relatability is going to be really key to getting people involved.
Yeah, and it's fun when you kind of see somebody who suddenly like is like, oh, I get it. Because there's always like this moment where it's like they're like, oh, and it's always exciting. So I'm just like, I'm not here to change people's minds about what they think about this. Like everybody has the right to their own opinion and their own investing style, but I am here to provide context. And I think that's just what we're trying to do at Crypto Witch Club. Just give the facts, provide the context, and people are smart. They can make up their own minds. But I love seeing it when they're like, "Oh, I understand it now." Though that's just so like fulfilling to me. I'm like, rock on, like great.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Where can people find you?
So we're at cryptowitchclub.io. We have a lot of free mini guides you can download, or you can visit us on Instagram or Twitter at cryptowitchclub.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for listening. Make sure to, if you're not already, subscribe, follow, rate, review, all the things. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Pods, Google Pods, and really every corner of the internet. So thank you for being here, and we will see you next time.